All right, let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I want to do before we start to trace artwork is to talk about the composition that makes a menu successful and pleasing to the eye. When you're doing a menu, there is a ton of stuff that's going to be in the customer's eye. The artwork, the items that they can order, and a lot of text, of course, like the headings: snacks, lunch, dinner, coffee, children's meals, sodas, drinks, that kind of thing. Your job as a designer is to do a juggling act, to know how to place things so it's not boring and it's also not too overpowering. It's very easy to get lost doing a menu where you have pictures that obstruct the words so people can't really see what they're ordering. And your job is to make things appealing and fun and easy as far as the flow. As you can see here, I have very distinct columns here, and I have nice pictures that give it a nice flow. Now, when we looked at the sketches earlier, you'll notice that these artwork, let me go ahead and zoom in on this, were pretty much all drawn at the same size. But that would look extremely boring in a real menu. So I made the pancakes pretty big because people like to eat breakfast 24 hours a day. I have my hand up. I also like my coffee. And we have hamburgers and french fries. So I blew up the images quite large and have some of them actually extended past the artwork. Which brings me to another point. In artwork like this, typically the artwork and the colors extend past the page. This is called a bleed. And artwork typically bleeds 1/4 of an inch or more off the side of each side of the page. So as you can see here, the hamburger and everything go past this black line here. That means that the artwork will go to the very edge of the paper. I have a black background covering up where these things overlap, just for presentation purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new document. And it's going to be a letter. And it's going to be also the landscape mode here. But feel free once again to follow along or to just do your own thing, but pay attention to what I'm saying, and you can choose the portrait mode if you like. But I'm going to go ahead and do landscape and hit OK. Then I'm going to go File, and I'm going to place that artwork, and I have mine on my desktop. We're going to bring in cafefoodsketches.jpg. Okay, once again, a very small file size, and I will place it. Now, the beautiful thing about Illustrator is we can trace it at any size. It doesn't matter. As long as it's vector based, we can zoom and make it small as possible and it will stay crisp. So let's go ahead to that layer with the artwork and let's double click on it. Let's call it Sketches. And let's also template it and hit OK. The reason I didn't make it 30% like last time when we did the mech logo is because the artwork is already light as it is and we would not be able to see it at all. Let's create a new layer and we're going to double click on it and call it Food. And I'm going to change my color to a darker color. This is where we're going to trace our artwork. Now for those of you who prefer a more refined look and you don't want to follow along with my little jaggedy style, feel free to trace with the pen tool. But I'm going to go ahead and grab the blob brush. And I'm going to show you a very quick little pointer on how to get the exact line that you're looking for. As you can see with the blob brush, when you draw and you try to do something like this, your line might not be exactly like mine. Your line might come out like this. That's because if you double click on the blob brush, you'll see that your smoothness or your fidelity is somewhere around here. If you bring both of these sliders all the way to the left, you're going to get pretty much exactly what you draw. So if you do a squiggly line, you're going to get a squiggly line. So that's what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of these lines here. I'm going to zoom in and let's go ahead and start with something challenging. We'll start with the hamburger. So we're going to do this one together and you guys are going to sketch and trace over the other ones on your own. So I'm going to grab my blob brush. I'm going to get rid of this fill color and I'm going to go to a black line. And I'm going to simply trace. Now, if you're like me and you draw more naturally at an extreme angle, feel free to click on your layer here. Let me go ahead and unlock my sketches and rotate it like so. I draw at this angle in real life. I know it's weird, but I do. So I'm going to lock that layer again, and I'm going to zoom in and draw like I'm on that Batman show with Adam West, and the criminals always had slanted floors. So that's how I draw, slanted. So I'm going to start to move my mouse like this back and forth to get that squiggle line. All right, this is my favorite way of drawing, and it gives me that whimsy that I'm pretty much known for in 90% of the artwork that I do for clients. And believe it or not, I don't even have to do it this way because my hand is so shaky anyway that I get the squiggly line whether I ask for it or not. So as you can see, we have this nice line. Now don't be afraid to go like this. If you need to go into the line, knock yourself out. You can always grab your eraser and you can come back later on and you can get rid of the mistakes you make. Okay, so I'm going to undo that twice, grab my blob brush, and I'm going to continue tracing. Now one thing that's important, you don't really have to choose a particular order in which to draw these things. You can start with the lettuce, you can start with the tomatoes, whatever part makes you happy. I typically leave little things like the seeds for last because they require a little bit more attention. And I also notice I have this cheese dangling here and I might not want it, so you don't have to draw everything you see either. So let's go ahead and continue. And we're going to simply squiggle it up like so and head over to the tomato. Okay, let's go ahead and continue this drawing in the next part.